Does Ice Rider Calyrex still work? I'm here to tell you that it is. What's up everyone, Max Power here, and welcome back to the arena. And we're going to be reviewing this wonderful deck that may have been tossed to the wayside, but is actually still going to be relevant now, before, and after post-rotation. So of course, come join me for this journey. If this is your first time here, welcome. I like going over anything Pokemon TCG related, especially deck building, collecting, grading, all that sort of stuff. So if you like what you see, leave a like, let me know what you think, and subscribe to the channel and share with your friends, please. We're going to get started with the base of this deck, which is going to be the Ice Rider Calyrex V. Main component here, you can't evolve into the big boy without the base. And it's going to be, his two attacks are Pierce for 1 energy, dealing 40 damage. Not terrible, you're not going to be doing that too often, but sometimes it's very useful. And then its second attack is a Glacial Lance for 200, as long as you discard 2 energy at a cost of 3 energy. Not too shabby, but of course the main course is going to be what we went over at the beginning, which is actually the Ice Rider Calyrex VMax. Now, of course, I'm running a 3-3 line in this case for this deck. 2 might be fine, but I think 3 is a good mix. And this is actually something that you might have been able to build it off of buying packs and singles from Chilling Reign, but you can actually buy a League Battle deck featuring these cards, most of them. It's still for sale. MSRP is like $29.99, but you can get it for much cheaper. So I definitely recommend if you're looking for a good deck idea to build. It's 2 attacks. The first one is Ride of the High King. It does 10 base damage, but it does 30 more damage for each Pokemon on your opponent's bench. So this is good because if you pair this with Origin Form Palkia V, both of them take advantage of the fact that the more bench Pokemon are on either side, or in particular in your opponent's side, it deals more damage to your opponent's active. So it's very useful. And that's more of a backup attack. Its main attack is the Max Lance. For just 2 water, you can discard up to 2 energy from this Pokemon, and if you do, it does 120 damage for each additional one. So at a base of 10, you discard both energies, it does a whopping 250. And if you equip this with Choice Belt, you're hitting 280. This is actually more than enough to knock out a lot of Pokemon V-Stars. V-Maxes are starting to get phased out since a lot of those Sword and Shield cards are leaving, but that doesn't mean that Ice Rider and some others are no longer viable. They definitely are. I'm here to prove it. We're actually playing the Palkia V, as we mentioned. 2 useful attacks. You're not really going to be using them much, but Rule the Region, you can always fetch out a Stadium card for 1 energy if you're still setting up. And then second attack, Hydro Break for 3 energy, 2 water, and 1 colorless. You deal 200 damage. Not bad. Although, to be honest with you, the main setup you're going to be doing is for this V-Star Palkia. This is a really good deck. It's a standalone, excellent attacker. It's a great tech, especially when paired with Ice Rider. I only have a 1-1 line, but if I could change anything right now, it would be to add 2 Palkias to this deck. Now, being a V-Star, it has an ability called Star Portal. During your turn, you can attach up to 3 water energy cards from your discard pile onto your water Pokemon in any way that you like. Because it is a V-Star power, you can only do that once per game. But it's very, very good, very, very powerful. And it plays off of the fact that its partner in crime, the Ice Rider, discards the water energy. The Palkia helps to bring it back. And then Melanie, which we'll go over later, is a supporter that also helps recover water energy from the discard pile, as well as draw cards. So anything that accelerates energy, accelerates draw power, both of those in the same deck is very, very good, guys, which is why Palkia and Ice Rider are not going anywhere anytime soon. And we haven't even gone over Palkia's attack. Subspace Swell, for 2 water energies, it does a base attack of 60, but again, this does 20 more damage for each bench Pokemon on both sides of the field. So this can actually end up doing a whopping 260 if the benches are loaded. Very, very potent, very, very useful, low maintenance, 2 energy, knock them dead. Now, I will be using a lot of cards that are still current as of right now. Rotation is not going to come until April 15th, so I'm going to pay homage to these cards as much as possible. We're running the Rapid Strike Sobbles. with the Keep Calling ability, because this deck as of right now is still running the Inteleon engine. If you don't know what that means, we're going to talk about that right now. While we're not losing the Sobble and the Chilling Reign Inteleon, we are losing this bad boy, which is probably the best Stage 1 Pokemon in the entire Sword and Shield era, and it came out of the base set. Why? Drizzile, an HP of 90 for a Stage 1, its ability is Shady Dealings. This has been the best engine, the best thing to run in a lot of decks, and I'm going to miss it dearly. When you play this Pokemon for your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may search for your deck for a trainer card, any trainer you so wish, reveal it, and put it in your hand. If you have 2, 3, or 4 of these, and you combine these with Scoop Up Nets, with the Shady Dealings and Inteleon, rinse and repeat, this is one of the best engines in the game. Like I said, it's just so great. And then when you evolve it into the Inteleon from Sword and Shield base, it's Shady Dealings again, except this time you actually get to choose 2 trainer cards from your deck, add them to your hand. On top of the fact that it has an attack of Aqua Bullet, deals 120 for 1 water, 1 colorless, and also does 20 damage to one of your bench Pokemon. I'd like to take the time right now, guys, to thank you for taking the time. And again, if you enjoy this, please hit the like button. I'll allow you a moment to do that right now. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much if you choose to do so. We're moving on to the Chilling Reign Rapid Strike Inteleon. This one's still going to be in rotation. It's not as exciting, but its quick shooting ability is still useful. You get to ping or snipe one of your opponent's Pokemon for 2 damage counters every turn. If you have 2 of these, you get to do it twice. That's 40 damage. And it has a waterfall attack for 70 for 2 colorless. Very useful. I think this is still going to be relevant at post-format, post-rotation, but it just won't be the same. The last Pokemon to round off this deck, Radiant Greninja. This actually helps with its concealed cards. You get to discard an energy card, draw 2 cards from your deck every single time. This is excellent. This also feeds into the throw energy into the discard pile, draw some cards, bring the waters back from the discard pile, and keep it going. It's very seamless, very it's just great, very useful, very effective, especially in this deck. While we do have the Sobbles, we're going to be playing 4 level balls. Any deck that uses level 90 or less Pokemon, you want to rock 3 to 4 level balls, because you can just fetch it from your deck and add it to your hand, just like that, no cost, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Any deck that has a lot of Pokemon, you always want to have plenty of search for them. That's how you contribute to your consistency, your reliability, and allowing you to set up your board quicker and sooner every single time. Quick Ball does just that. You get to discard a card from your hand and you search your deck for a basic Pokemon, add that to your hand. This card will rotate out, unfortunately. However, we will be replacing it with the Nest Ball that does the exact same thing for no discard, and you get to add it to your bench. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. You can watch my video covering the Giratina deck explaining that, but it's definitely a good thing that we get Nest Ball. It's actually going to be one of the most impactful searchers in the game. Ultra Ball is also really good. It's the opposite in the sense that you do have to discard 2 cards from your hand to search for any Pokemon. It could be basic, could be evolved. Again, adding to that consistency. And sometimes you do want to discard cards. Depends on what deck it is that you're playing, what the strategy is. Capacious Bucket is a card out of Rebel Clash in the Sword and Shield era. It's one of the better ones. I'm going to miss it dearly as well. You get to search your deck for 2 water energy and add them to your hand. If you have all 3, you get to add 6. But this is very useful. Get to get your energy acceleration going, to get your draw power going, setting up your Ice Rider, setting up your Melanies. Very useful, very great to have. If you know me, any decks that I run, I like to have switch options, at least as needed. Switch, there's no explanation needed. You can just switch your Pokemon with someone on the bench. And my other 2 options are actually Air Balloons, another card that is going to be missed when it rotates because it's very useful. As a Pokemon tool, it reduces the retreat cost of any Pokemon by 2. There is going to be a new stadium added in Scarlet and Violet. I think it's Beach Court. Beach Court reduces the retreat cost by 1 for everyone in the field. Very useful. It unfortunately helps your opponent as well, but it's going to be super impactful. I know it already. Choice Belt is the item of choice because it actually adds 30 damage output to your opponent's active Pokemon V. Now, as VMaxes, and V Stars start to rotate out, Choice Belt will see a lot less play. However, V Stars and V Maxes are still in the format, so it's very useful to play as long as they still are in. If you're playing decks that do not have Vs, don't use Choice Belt, take them out. But that's going to depend on what it is you're seeing when you play, whether you go to tournaments or you're playing with your friends. This deck relies on Path to the Peak. Path to the Peak is going to be one of the strongest stadiums, still is, because it's still in rotation. When it passes, it's still going to be used and active. Pokemon with Rule Box in play have no abilities. So this can backfire if you do have Pokemon with rule boxes, such as Radiant Greninja in this case. But it's also useful because your Palkias, Palkia, you can't do it, but your Ice Rider doesn't have any abilities, it's not going to affect it, but it will nerf Arceus decks, Giratina decks, Lugia decks, a lot of other decks that use strong abilities. Temple of Sinnoh, I have a 1-off here. You can increase it to 2, but this is strong against any deck that uses special energies because it counts them as 1 colorless and no effects. So DTE, 1 instead of 2. Aurora, anything special that just nerfs them completely. Very useful to have in the situation. The main supporter for this deck is going to be Melanie, one of the gym leaders from Sword and Shield. You get to attach a water energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon V. It doesn't even have to be a water Pokemon. And when you do, you draw 3 cards. Super useful, very excellent option to have, especially in this deck that uses those water energies, discards them, reuses them. That's exactly what you want to do here. Marnie will be rotating out, but you can easily replace this with Judge from Fusion Strike. Basically, each player shuffles their hand back into the bottom of their deck and draws 4 or 5 cards respectively, depending on if you're the person using it or on the other side. Marnie has just been great because of that disruption. It gets to refresh your hands, and it just does what it needs to do. Speaking of refreshing hands, we run 2 Professor's Research. You could run more, you could run less, really depends on what it is. How your consistency is going in the deck. If you need more, add it. If you don't, reduce or take out. You discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Very useful, and a lot of decks are reliant on a deck like that. We're almost done here, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to show you a preview of what the next video is going to show for us next week. I'm definitely sure it's something that you're going to be looking forward to. At least I hope so. Boss's Orders. Every deck needs 1 to 3 Boss's Orders. This one has 2. You gust up your opponent's active. Perfect for the late game. You get the clutch and get the win in. Get your last prize cards. And last but not least, we have 8 Water Energy. It's safe to play anywhere between 8 to 10, 8 to 11. This deck, because it recycles so much of the water energies, you don't need to run a bunch because you'll throw them to the discard, add them to your Pokemon, throw it back into the discard, rinse and repeat. Honestly, no pun there, but it does work. Any adjustments I would make to this particular deck? Well, I will be making a video where I'm gonna kind of give you a suggestion for a pulse rotation format. I'm very looking forward to that one as well, because I do believe that Calyrex and Palkia are very strong, very useful, and they've been heavily overlooked as of the last few sets. Something I would add is Articuno from Silver Tempest, because it gives you an option to paralyze your opponents. And you also have Emergency Jelly, which helps it recover HP, because that attack damages itself. Something else I would add, since we're losing the Inteleon engine, we're going to be replacing that with Bidoof and Bibarel. The Bibarel with the Industrious Incisors from Brilliant Stars. That means you get to draw cards until you have 5 in your hand. If you have 2 Bibarels, you get to do it a second time. But I will be posting a video going over that particular deck profile, so no worries. You could take the notes from here, you can compare, but this is definitely a good starting point, at least I feel. Let me know what you guys think. What adjustments would you make? Have you played Calyrex before, the Ice Rider version? Do you like it? How's it been going? And then what are you collecting? What are your goals for 2023? I definitely want to grow my collection. I want to buy some new cards, make new decks, and just keep it going, man, until it's fun still. and we're enjoying it. That's the whole name of the game. Thank you so much for taking the time, and hope you have a great day.